Hi, I'm Maris Bargielski,
And I'm Tamara Jones.
and we welcome you very warmly, as always. And today we have a very, very special guest.
Brian Chin. He's the president of One-on-One Next Level, where he oversees all operation, including the studio's special programs and classes. He was born in Los Angeles, California, and he grew up in Orange County, California.
Yes, and One-on-One needs no introduction. It is the actors industry tool. It's a members-only networking studio platform that gives you the opportunity, actors and performers, the opportunity to work with industry professionals and agents, managers, casting directors. It's just a great way to get in front of this industry and get your foot in the door.
Yes, and what really makes the studio unique is that in order to become a member, you have to audition, which we really, really love because the level is much, much higher than in average places, very similar what they do, right? And you never know who you meet when you have a workshop or classes or even one-on-one.
Yeah. And so, Brian, besides it being a membership-only platform and studio, what else would you say really sets you guys apart and makes you unique?
I think, well, first of all, thank you for that wonderful introduction. You will sum up what we do better than I can sum
And
it.
listen, and we're very, very happy to have you here today with us.
Yeah. Thank you. But yeah, like as you mentioned, we have a pre-screening process, which was really our, like our entry into this industry. We thought, what if the actors could take classes in a professional environment with casting directors and actively working filmmakers and agents and managers, and feel like everyone else in the class or in the program was also lifting them up and pushing them up in terms of bringing it, in terms of their craft and professionalism. So, as you mentioned, something that really helps us stand apart is, our actors are pre-screened for talent and professionalism. A lot of people only focus on the first part, the talent, which obviously matters a lot, but they don't realize that we put in a lot of effort on screening for professionalism, not only in that initial application period to become a new member, but also after, which means, if our actors, they show up to our classes and we get feedback that they're not professional, they're hindering the environment for the industry instructor or for other actors, we do go in and have a conversation, and sometimes we determine that we aren't the best fit for some people. I would say like we run things kind of the old school work way. I always have the saying that I think actors by their nature, their lives are so chaotic with the day jobs, when the auditions being uncertain, and with all these things. When they come here, they want to know exactly what they're going to get. Here is where they get stability. We can't, have people coming here and be like, you know what, I'm going to do a monologue instead of a scene, or I don't like what you assigned me to do, this casting director. I'm going to tell you what I want to do. I don't know if that's tolerated elsewhere, but here we do not allow for that. We run things very by the book, and we believe in structure, and that structure we think will alleviate a lot of the chaos and help the actors propel their careers forward. Something else that I'm really proud of is I do think we are the only networking studio that is truly bi-coastal, meaning brick and mortar campuses in both Los Angeles and New York City. We did not give up our space in New York during the pandemic.
Wow.
I had a saying that, like, if this became an online only institution, I did not want to work for it, because I believe that, by nature, acting, and, by nature, I think life, but like especially in the entertainment industry, like acting, it's not something at the end of the day, like acting in front of a laptop with a ring light. It doesn't have that. I always say, like, with the industry and the actors, like, you need to be in the room, you need to like hear the person's stomach growl, you need to smell their odor. Like, that is what it's about. And so we have that in New York. And actually, during the pandemic, we upgraded our space in LA to a new state-of-the-art facility that was really triple the size of our old space. So, I think that's another, like thing we're really proud of, is that we have brick and mortars on both coasts, truly bi-coastal. And lastly, another thing that I guess inspires me to get up every day and go to work is our special programs. The fact that we have our Atlanta trip, where we bring our actors in LA and New York and, across the country to Atlanta for a weekend. We've been doing that since 2017. We do it 4 times a year, and it's inspiring to see our actors say, hey, I feel like I was going to quit acting like in New York. Like I was in quicksand. Nothing was working for me. And you know what? Like I did the Atlanta trip. I'm now on the set of a Marvel series, and I now have like three TV credits that I had struggled to get for 5 years in New York. So we have programs like the Atlanta trip, and we have special extended programs like our Bridge program, which is for 3 weeks. We do it on both coasts, and along with other special formatted programs, so that we've never liked the association of being like a workshop studio. We don't call ourselves that because I think it has the connotation of, oh, I pay $25, I meet someone, and then I leave. And we're not about the quickies here. Like, we are about building and forging an authentic relationship with industry gatekeepers that are an investment that will give you a return over and over again, instead of, I met somebody and now I have half a line on Law and Order SVU.
I agree. I agree. You cover so many things, and first of all, we appreciate what you do, because it is important. And from the agent perspective, we always looking first for the personality. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it's a very difficult times, but also the new generation, how they try to adapt to this industry. Sometimes it's not really professional, and that's very important. And also, you already covered the subject I want to ask, because I just saw it, the Atlanta, which is very, very exciting though.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, the Atlanta trip, I have to say, it was something that came from my brain, and that I know a bunch of actors at the time in Los Angeles were like, they didn't have abs. They were not going to be the CW, actors that were going to get signed by the big agencies or whatnot. And they felt really stuck. And then they signed with these, Atlanta reps that were getting them like 7 auditions a week, right? Mm-hmm. But then what happened was, sometimes some actors flaked. Like they get a booking and they'd be like, I can't fly there tomorrow. The plane ticket's too expensive, or I have a wedding to go to. So then all the Atlanta reps banded together. And this was around, I want to say 2014, 2015. 25th, that time span. And they said, we are not going to sign any out of town LA and New York actors, because they are just flaking. They book and then they flake. And I thought, what a shame for our actors, because I know our actors, they would drive and walk there to get that opportunity, right? Like, some of our people, it's like, they're so dedicated, they're in their class, they're committed, and they just need that opportunity that I think being a bigger fish in a smaller pond might afford them to. So for 1 year, this was when Atlanta was still like kind of old school, like the old guard, where you looked up the agency and like everyone had the same last name. You're like, is it just like a one family operation, here, or what's going on? And I literally said, like, please, like, we will bring you talent that you can't find elsewhere, that's dedicated, committed, and talented. And they will not flake, because our members don't. So basically they said, you have one shot. If you waste our time, you will never be back, because there's only a bunch of agencies here. It's very small, and we have better things to do on a Saturday afternoon than to meet your actors flying in from out of town. And I'm proud to say, after that first one, now the agents in Atlanta fight over who gets to attend our showcase each and every single time, because they'll say, it's like, we sign people from your showcases and they book within a month. They're on a Marvel series, they're recurring on BET. And we've had some reps say, you know what, for your people, I don't care if they're in Alaska, they show up, and I don't know about, and they show up. It's like, and that's what matters.
Yep.
Yeah. So nice. Tamara, before you start, and I know you want to talk and ask Brian about all the changes and all of this pandemic time, but tell us a little bit, Brian, about yourself. So how you got involved with one-on-one? Mm-hmm.
So I, growing up in Orange County, I was like, this place is so boring. It's clean. It's so safe. I need some more, like action. So I thought I at first wanted to do musical theater. I wanted to be on Broadway, and but I knew for sure I wanted to be in New York. I was like, I want someplace with action, and it's like like more gritty and interesting. And I thought so I went to NYU for acting, and I when you're 18 years old, things are a little different. I thought I'd live in New York City for the rest of my life. I didn't even apply to any colleges in California. I was like, this place is it's too like sunny and comfortable for me. Um, and then, I would say like NYU, after my first 2 years, I was like, this place is too cold for me. And I don't like the subway and I don't really like live and I miss my family. So then I was like, you know what? I want to move back to Southern California. And then, like I had a teacher suggest I should do TV, which I'd never really considered. I always thought I'd be on Broadway because I love to sing and, I love musicals. So I was like, TV. I was like, but we're still doing Chekhov at NYU. It's like, what are we doing? So they're like, you should go to this place called One-on-One and take this class with this teacher, Ted Slaversky. And so he was my first, and he's still a teacher today, which is so funny. But he was my first ever on-camera TV class. And from there, I honestly loved it. I still kind of remember the scenes that he would assign me. I can't remember the specific names for like ABC pilots. And I just had so much more fun working on those than I did like Chekhov or Shakespeare, to be honest. And then I would, started to do some more one-on-one classes with different casting directors. And I got some feedback that I, should give LA a try. So, I moved to LA the week after I graduated. I really, kind of threw myself in, did commercials and TV, and really enjoyed the whole audition process. But then I kind of found was like I enjoyed the hunt. It's like waking up, like which casting director should I meet? Like who do I know to give me a referral? And like how do I follow up with this, manager that 6 months ago told me to keep in touch and circle back when I have bookings. I kind of enjoyed that aspect, like the kind of like being an admiral and like planning out the battle more than I did, to be honest, like preparing my auditions and showing up. And I was like, wow. So then an opportunity came for me. One-on-One's LA division was seeking like a just like a scheduler, like a programming associate. So I was like, sure, I'll try my best. And from there, I kind of just rose through the ranks. Eventually became LA studio director, and then eventually the LA studio did so well that it was noticed that actually that small little operation in LA was almost equivalent of what had been in New York for 28, 29 years. So then I was tasked to basically take over and oversee all of our operations, including New York.
That's amazing.
That is incredible. What a story. All the way from Orange County, too. I love it. I love that place.
The main streets of OC.
Very sunny over there, very sunny. So, I mean, you've already laid out so many of your projects and your visions that have come into full bloom and is now like working for this company. What would you say out of all of these things is your biggest success, your most proudest vision that has come to life?
I will. So I'll give one answer that's like I would say an innovation answer, and then a second I would say is like going through the grain. I was going through the trends. So I'll start with the second one. So I think the pandemic obviously was very disruptive, still is. I think we're still like living the effects of it, right? And it's still uncertain footing. And it's one of those where like everyone has a lot of opinions. And I think that's something so interesting about our industry. It's both good and bad. Like everyone has an opinion, sometimes very strong opinions. But I also think sometimes, the industry can be doom and gloom. And sometimes people kind of want to follow what everyone else is following. Something that I quickly learned, I didn't exactly realize it at the time, but at least amongst our space, One-on-One really is viewed as like the industry leader, like, for what we've done, like in the last 33 years, we're kind of looked to, like, some people copy us. I feel like I sometimes like, I wonder if there's like a bug here. Like whatever I do, I was like, wow, I read that. I was like that. I think I wrote that, or like that looked like a banner that I had designed. That looks so familiar. But during the pandemic, there were a lot of opinions on like whether everything would be online, or whether there's a future for in person anymore. Whether there should even still be classes. Like should there should actors still be participating in these classes with industry professionals? And a lot of times, some people initially it's doom and gloom, and it's like it's like there shouldn't be classes, and there shouldn't actors shouldn't be what's the point of working with casting directors. So I'm really proud that literally, so the pandemic, my birthday's on March 13th. And I remember my birthday, March 13th, 2020, was when everything in LA at least shut down. That was when the shutdown order was given in LA. And then I would say it's March 15th of 2020, where we pioneered our first Zoom class that lifted off the ground because we had been putting in the preparation for it like a week or two before. I kind of knew it was happening. So I said, and I referenced this earlier, if this is going to be a Zoom only operation like forever, like I'm out. Like I don't believe that. Like I am a my parents are immigrants, and my grandparents have always conveyed a lot of wisdom in me, and something that they've always said is, sometimes the artificial things, like you can inject you can like put on all these fake things, but there's just some things in life you cannot counteract. And I sometimes tell people, I'm a big Trekkie. I like Star Trek. And Star Trek in that canon, something that the creators of it tried to convey was time travel. And basically, in the Star Trek universe, if you're a character that time travels, eventually you have diseases or things in the universe don't work, and then there's consequences. So what I'm tying that into is the message from that is no matter how far you are in the future, no matter how advanced the technology is, how advanced the medicine is, there's just some things you can't beat. You cannot beat Father Time. You cannot time travel. And for me, the thing I tried to lay down with our team was no matter how much you want to spin it, you cannot convince me that theater is better on a laptop that we're all watching than live in person. You cannot tell me that when an actor goes to audition, that conversation they have walking down the hallway, hey, what did you do this weekend? Oh, I went to Disneyland. Oh, I'm a big fan of Disney. And then following up with that casting director, maybe on social media or an email, that connection, frankly, is not as valuable as a million self-tapes being sent to the clouds that they're, who knows, watching on the toilet, even though I'm probably not supposed to say that. But there were just some things, that just to me, the logic didn't make sense. And I was like, I don't care if everyone's saying it or everyone's saying it's pointless for actors to take classes with casting directors now, because at the time it's when there were no production. So people you shouldn't be doing this, it's not going to work. But you know what? As so many of our casting directors said, that was some of those actors that they work with then, in those initial darkest moments, are the ones that they remember the most, 4 years later, that they had the deepest connection with. And the fact that we did that was in a way a middle finger to those that are this is pay to play, because there was no production going on.
Right.
Just we continued classes last year when there was a strike. And same thing, it's it's a chance for the actors to forge relationships. And yes, everyone hopes that they're going to be remembered for opportunity. That's human nature. But it's we kept things going because we believed in the power of organic actual relationships, and not the transactional, oh, you meet me, I'm going to give you half a line. That, if you ask me, that probably is pay to play. So that's what we believe. So that's the second one, going against the grain. I'd say the first one that I'm actually most proud of would be the innovation of our special programs and really leaning into the more premium space. Just from the feedback that we get from our customers, we're really not viewed kind of we can't compete in the Walmart aspect, so to speak. I love Walmart. I love all my clothes are from Target, including this. There's a place for different tiers of products. But for us, we've really discovered our customers want a more first-class premium experience. So that's why when we do things like the Atlanta trip or, the LA Super Showcase, it's a 4-day program. We pack 27 agents and managers, but we make it, instead of just throwing our actors, on there, we add in how to follow up with the industry, how to, what do you say after a showcase is done and you have to pitch yourself to an agent? And it's how do you craft these cover letters? So we've really tried to make it into a more premium experience. So that's something that I'm most proud of here, is that I've helped us lean into being a premium product company. And that's what we are looking forward to in the future as well.
Excellent. Yes, that sounds amazing.
And I have to tell you something from my experience. I remember we still were during the pandemic, and I got the call from you if I can come and do the one-on-one. Mm-hmm. And my first question was, this is Zoom or this is live? And when you said live, I said, yes, thank you. And
Yes.
I still remember the person, by the desk. They check if we have vaccination and we have,
Yeah.
the test. But I was like, oh my God, thank you.
Yes. And it was, I don't want to lean in too much to like the negative parts of that experience, but I will say it is not easy to go against the grain. Whenever like you were like such a gem being like, I'm so happy for this. But some other people, not only was it, oh, I don't want to come, it's you shouldn't be doing this.
I
Right. It's
know, I know.
almost like you're committing a crime. And I pushed, I was like, look, nobody's forced. Like we still have the online thing. If somebody wants online, and here we are on Zoom. I'm not poo-pooing that. But you can't argue that there's no benefit to being in person. So it was very hard. And I would say that those were some of the most challenging times I've ever had in my job, was when it was like, do people still want us to try? It's like, what's the point? Everyone's angry at us. It's like I'm not trying to do anything wrong. I'm trying to do what some people say they want, but it's like so difficult. There's so many regulations with the city we had to follow. And some people, some of the actors, they showed up, they didn't want to wear a mask, or, and then it became like what you saw on TV. Like it was just like trying to get people to follow the rules that we didn't create. Someone else created it. And it did feel very lonely. It's like, are we crazy? Should we all just like hop on Zoom, in our pants, in our pajamas, on the bed, and is this the future? But I strongly believe that just like 33 years ago when the company was created, there was a vision for this to be a place where pre-screened actors could forge relationships, and then we've always tried to pioneer. Like we came up with the class video where it's on camera, the performance is projected onto a TV, and then it's recorded. So after the casting director class, it's like the actors get a copy of their scene. So we've always had like a vision, and to be honest, that was my vision, was like, if it's all just on Zoom, I was like, that's not it. I can go elsewhere.
Well, we have made it through, so that is the grand part about it. But so yeah.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Let's go deep on those times, but from the actor's perspective. So, from your experience and your observation, what do you think? What really changed with the acting approach or actors' approach to the industry, and obviously to all the networking places, but also the more professional or opposite?
So I avoid being whatever. Although I will say the good thing about, like, I'm not that old, but I'm like a grandfather, and that, like, I don't really care. Like, like whatever. It's like, I work hard, and then I enjoy a nice meal at a restaurant, and then I go home and see my parents and like play with their dog, and then I don't care. However, like, to quote other people, like, even like not just agents and managers and casting directors, but also like other, like drama department professors and like the chair, of those departments, from what they've told me, basically, because so much of the pandemic was on Zoom, and a lot of the actors, they're getting their training then, where they were taking like scene study or like movement or like voice classes on Zoom, which we all know, it's like that is not the real thing, right? Because of that, casting directors have told me, like, even when they've attended, like, like the senior year of like Juilliard or like other places, they're like, the work is just really suffering, right? The work is not there. And then and you can't blame them, because like they weren't in the room with people. But then other drama department, people have also told me that because everything was, distant and, on Zoom, a lot of people, a lot of students, they kind of lost the EQ part of their education. So it became harder for them to receive feedback, and like, like it kind of the emotional toughness of dealing with this industry maybe wasn't conveyed. I remember when I was at NYU, it was tough. Like, the teacher, like, you wouldn't prepare, like they made you feel it, and they would tell you, and they didn't care.
Yeah.
So that has definitely, I think, seeped in. There's a bit of and it's also like, I think, in a this industry has always been hard. It's hard for everyone. You have to hustle. You can't really just sit on your couch and wait for your agent to call you. In a way, it's like you have to be proactive. You have to like want it, like more than your acting coach and more than your agent, right? So I think that's some of the stuff that I've heard. So it's not attributed to me. I've heard people bring up a lot, especially even in our own classes, where the casting director would be like, I just gave a little like comment that the preparation could have been better, and it just causes some kind of an emotional reaction that I don't really think is warranted. Or there's just some things that, like, maybe there's a little bit of entitlement, or feeling like somebody should be coddled and catered to. And at the end of the day, I tell people, it's like, look, it is difficult for actors, right? But I don't think anybody's parents force them to be an actor.
Right.
So it's like, you're here, you're going after your dream. Let's view it positively. And like, what a blessing to be, to have a life where you can pursue your dreams without so many of the other plagues in the world.
Yeah, and it is the most beautiful job, right? So they
Yes.
It's a privileged job for sure. And yeah, you're right. Like the toughness, it really does cater into even the beforehand process. It caters into the production process. Like when you're on set, it is not just you. It is such a huge, diverse team, department by department, by department. And if you have a breakdown, you could be ruining like the time of hundreds of people who really are relying on you to just like get it right so that they can get home, go to a nice restaurant, visit their parents, and play with the dog. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right about that. I've also heard it's the same.
And time is money too. And and at the end of the day, it is a business. Like no matter what, it's not like our high school drama production where like everyone gets a part, right, hopefully, and then like you go, like you have the cast party and it's all lovey-dovey. Like sometimes I hear stuff, I'm like, that's that's like, oh, I was judged, but the casting director judged me by my looks, like they're bad. And I'm like, I hate to break it to you, but that's actually like that. As far as I know, maybe I'm naive. That's kind of how Hollywood has operated. That's their job. And I think sometimes to me there's a little bit of a misunderstanding of this is a business. It's cutthroat. It's the capital of the entertainment industry, and this is how it operates. Like, like would I love to walk in, to like Marius's office and be like, hey, Marius, I should play Chris Pine in the next like G.I. Joe action movie. I'm going to be you know what I mean? It's like, there's got to be some acknowledgement of the realities of the business.
I agree.
Yeah.
And that will be probably my next question, but it's a huge subject. But is this only we can blame the pandemic and strike, or there's also generation kind of thing, like coming very loosely to everything they do?
Yeah, that's such a good point. I don't know, and I'm not that old. Like I'm not like I'm not I'm not that old, right? But you definitely, and to be honest, and to just so that the actors don't think we're harping on actors. Same thing with the casting directors and the agents and managers. I see a huge difference between people like you, Marius, that attend our events, and to be honest, some of the younger agents and managers that are starting out at these agencies. It's a different, it's not everyone, but there's a trend. The work ethic is kind of different. And there is this, I will say, there's this thing that it's like, oh, I have something in my life, so you need to fix it for me. And it's something that I tell my employees, sometimes I get a lot of, oh, I can't make it due to unforeseen or due to unforeseen, I didn't know about this, and now you need to accommodate me. And it's kind of a joke, kind of not, but I was like, guys, if you wake up one day and you don't have any unforeseen circumstances in your life, I think you've made it to heaven. Like, that's why we wake up. We don't want to go to work. There's a bunch of crap that we have to deal with, and that's that. And like, so even in the industry, I do sometimes like sense it. But I think the beauty is the people who do work hard and show up. Like, I always tell people showing up is not half the battle. It is the battle. Like you have to show up, like no matter what, right? And if you can bring that, I think to me, like it makes sense why Kim Misha is Kim Misha, because dealing with her is like a different experience for me, just as a administrator or business operator, than some of the other people who aren't as successful as her. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe that's saying how you do anything is how you do everything is right. Like Kim Misha, like never like she treats us probably like the way she treats her producers, which is that of like an A+ professional, and that's why she's Kim Misha. But that's also why some other people maybe aren't as successful as her because of the work ethic.
I agree, and those basics sometimes they makes difference, right? The thank you, I'm sorry,
Absolutely.
respect everybody in this industry, right? So
yeah, just being considerate, like I love the number of reminders you gave me for today's podcast, because I was like, I'm the exact same way. I'm always like, I'm reminding you so much so you show up. I was like, Marius, don't worry, I will show up.
No, I knew. I was just, I was raised like this, so I better send the email or make a phone call, right? Then be sorry. And different things happens in the life, and especially with the job, you can be so busy and suddenly, I remember I had the call with the casting director a while ago, and she forgot about that. She came like half an hour later. Thank God I was still, by my computer, but it was the kind of like, okay. And obviously we on a place that we had to wait, right? But yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I mean, the stimulation everywhere is just, it's so intense. And I think that it's causing a lot of people's brains to have to go to too many different places around the entire world before they even come to their own world. And like, yeah, there's a lot of balancing I definitely can see happening. And so that actually brings us to one of our last questions for you. No one can predict the future, but how do you see this industry and your company, getting through to the future? Like, what do you see as the future for this industry?
I think at the end of the day, the industry, will bounce back definitely from, the pandemic, but also from last year and the strike and whatever is going on now. But because I think at the end of the day, look, it's not like we're in Kansas City, Missouri. This is the capital of the, LA and New York are the capital. Like around the world, they look to us, whether it's in Australia or London. Like they view, New York and LA as kind of the heart and soul of entertainment, TV, film, and theater. And so I think it'll bounce back, maybe not at that like kind of quote unquote peak TV era that people were saying, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. It's like, what's the point of so many Netflix or Amazon shows that like some of them aren't that good if we're honest. It feels like it was just churning out quantity and not quality, and maybe returning back to quality, kind of like a little bit of a correction. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I do think maybe because it will be a little bit, it's been a challenging few years. Probably, some actors who moved to LA and New York, maybe not for the right intentions. Maybe they like didn't truly want to be actors, but maybe just thought it'd be cool. Like they look cute, had a good picture. Maybe I think maybe some of the actor pool will be downsized a little bit, but then likewise, instead of quantity, it'll be like a much higher quality group of people. So I think at the end of the day, like people need stories, and they need productions made, and they need theater made. So I'm always optimistic for the future, and I think especially just besides our industry, it's a very globalized world now, and I think it's a good thing. Like we're all global citizens. It's like we're on the same planet. Like nobody's going anywhere. Like as much as you dislike someone, like you can't like shoot them to Mars. So we're all stuck with each other, and I've really enjoyed going on Netflix and being like, oh, there's a Danish show about World War II, or there's a British, Italian, there's a Korean show, there's stuff from different parts of the world that have different stories, and I actually think that's super exciting. Just seeing how even casting directors are working on projects internationally now.
Yeah, and this is interesting because we talk more and more about this correction, right? So maybe in this whole really bad times, this is something very small, tiny thing, but positive, that maybe we'll have this correction, and people who shouldn't be in this industry, right, will just change mind
Absolutely.
acting, or but that's also the managers of some agent, like you
Yeah.
said. I'm not so sure if they should be here though.
Right. I think the people who didn't get into it for the right reasons, like they probably will be like, wow, this is really hard. It's not a gravy train anymore. Like you have to hustle. And that's why I tell our actors, you got to show up. Like you got to it's a hunt. Who do I need to meet? And how can I increase my castability and my professionalism? However, the other thing about the correction that I'm hopeful for is I think it's good to like return to not our roots, but like kind of like the building blocks of like why we all entered this crazy, like whether you're an actor, an agent, like a producer, like a writer, why we entered this crazy business in the first place. I think, you brought up such a great point. Like there's so much like the feeds, the social media, the tweets, the articles. There's so much of that. And somebody once said that's like these days there's so many headlines, there's so much news, but there's very little wisdom. And that's something that, when I reference my grandparents, is I'm really grateful I got some building blocks of wisdom in my life. And I think with actors and this industry in particular, there once was an acting coach that told me, it's kind of like some actors, they kind of do what some musicians did, where they moved to like a certain city and they wanted the sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but they were like carried away by the sex and the drugs. And then eventually you're like, what happened to the rock and roll? Like, were you just living the lifestyle, or were you actually here for the music? And I think the correction will hopefully, there's so much these days. There's like every single day there's a new networking studio where somebody's operating it from their parents' basement, or there's a new person, like they're an influencer, like, like just talking into the phone, and they're the new guru. But I think with this correction, I think if the people that are really in it for the right reasons will hopefully, like, go back to the basic building blocks. Whether it's actors, it's like your training, your craft, your professionalism. Agents and managers, hopefully it's, like really finding the talent that you believe in, like falling in love with that talent, and then, creating that opportunity. And same with the writers, it's like writing quality stuff, as in this globalized world, instead of like, churning out half the crap that that we streamed a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I have actually one more question.
Yeah, and then we're gonna ask you about your podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But the first I want to ask you, like, what kind of music you listen?
I love this. I love Broadway music, so I love like musical theater stuff. So I'm still that way, but I do like to listen to a lot of pop, like Kelly Clarkson, Clay Aiken, that kind of era. I will say, like, I'm not very in tune with like whoever's most in. Like, I don't think I could name you a Taylor Swift song. I know One Direction. I did love One Direction, but besides that, like, I'm not very in with the latest musicians. I also kind of love country music, to be honest. Like, I've been to Nashville twice, and I actually really like it.
Hey,
Yeah,
nice.
I was surprised.
So yes, we know you also have a podcast, and so let's talk about your podcast.
Yeah, sure. So this it's called Heart to Heart. We came about this basically a few years ago. It was One on One Next Level's 30th anniversary. So we did a bunch of celebrations. We had like videos, and Marius did like a birthday video for us. Thank you. And just so nice to see. We brought back some like former employees who like were like had been with the company like 25 years ago. And even it was so nice to have some casting directors who had taught with us like 28 years ago. Like they met their husband in class, or like all these great things.
Nice.
So we were like, you know what, let's do a podcast. But we really were like, we don't want to make it like a typical podcast that like you would get. Like, we didn't want to copy like something that people would get at the SAG Foundation. We also thought, you know what, there's so many like how-to podcasts for actors. Like, everyone, like, there's so much, like, everyone wants to give advice to actors, and I was like, you know what, there's more qualified people than us. I was like, I'm simple old me, simple old Brian. So we wanted something that was more, in our opinion, like getting to the heart of people, kind of like taking the mask off of these professionals that had really like really made it in the industry, like Kathleen Turner and Chaz Palminteri, kind of getting to the heart of like, how did you overcome hardship? Like, was there a time when you wanted to quit? Like, what was the boldest choice you made when everyone else told you, like, no, you can't do it that way? Because when one-on-one, just like when I mentioned the Atlanta trip, when one-on-one started, people were like, that's you can't do it. That's never gonna work. And we wanted to, talk about stories of perseverance. And, our slogan really was, where there's a will, there's a way. And the reason why we wanted that is, no matter how much the industry changes, whether it's, self-tapes or Zoom or whatever the next thing is, all the apps, like there's so much going on. At the end of the day, it's always going to be about your skill, your perseverance, your kind of like gun-ho energy to be proactive, that we think will make anybody, whether they're an actor or not, successful in this world. So that's why we wanted to, not just interview casting directors, but also some pretty big, people who've made it, and kind of ask them. It's like, it probably wasn't always easy for you, and we wanted our, some of our actors to hear, like, hey, how like late at night you're like, scrolling through your Facebook or whatever it's TikTok, I don't have it, like thing, and then you're seeing and you're wondering if you should still be doing this, or if instead you should like move back in with your parents and do their like whatever their family business. Listen to Chaz Palminteri's story about about it, and then and then let us know how you feel.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And how can people find this, find your information, find this podcast?
Yeah, they can find it on our website, oneononyc.com, and there's a orange button there that says podcast, and they can subscribe to it. Season 1's already out. I think we have 20 something episodes, and season 2 will be out soon. So in the next few months. So if they subscribe, they'll get that notification. I think it's on Apple Podcasts and all the usual Spotify and all the usual platforms.
Wonderful.
Brian,
Well,
it was such a pleasure to have you here with us today. And I hope we will do it again, like in some time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so
This
much
was
for
fun.
having me.
Yes.
You guys are so easy to talk to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
try. And yes, everybody, please go check out One on One. It is the industry standard. It really is. It's been around for decades. I walked through those doors when I was first starting, and it is just, it's a very useful tool. So everybody check out Brian Chin. Thank you so much for coming on today. And yes, we are looking forward to the future.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. And
Thank you, Brian.
So please don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel so that you can follow along as we continue to interview more guests and talk about unveiling the industry.